DNA. Deoxyribonucleic acid (DNA) is an organic chemical that contains genetic information and instructions for protein synthesis. It is found in most cells of every organism. DNA is a key part of reproduction, in which genetic heredity occurs through the passing down of DNA from parent or parents to offspring. DNA is made of nucleotides. A nucleotide has two components: a backbone, made from the sugar deoxyribose and phosphate groups, and nitrogenous bases, known as cytosine, thymine, adenine, and guanine. Genetic code is formed through different arrangements of the bases. DNA now has three distinct functions: genetics, immunological, and structural, that are widely disparate and variously dependent on the sugar-phosphate backbone and the bases. DNA is pivotal to our growth, reproduction, and health. It contains the instructions necessary for your cells to produce proteins that affect many different processes and functions in your body. Because DNA is so important, damage or mutations can sometimes contribute to disease development. Because of recombination, siblings only share about 50% of the same DNA, on average, Dennis says. So while biological siblings have the same family tree, their genetic code might be different in at least one of the areas looked at in a given test. That's true even for fraternal twins. DNA identify a person. Once forensic scientists obtain a sample, they extract the DNA from cells in bodily fluids or tissues and copy it. They then separate the copied markers using a process known as capillary electrophoresis. This enables them to identify distinct markers and the number of repeats for different markers in each allele. Scientists in Israel have demonstrated that it is possible to fabricate DNA evidence, undermining the credibility of what has been considered the gold standard of proof in criminal cases. The scientists fabricated blood and saliva samples containing DNA from a person other than the donor of the blood and saliva. DNA is contained in blood, semen, skin cells, tissue, organs, muscle, brain cells, bone, teeth, hair, saliva, mucus, perspiration, fingernails, urine, feces, etc. Where can DNA evidence be found at a crime scene? DNA evidence can be collected from virtually anywhere. It has been proven that DNA can be obtained even from a single fingerprint. However, there are several problems linked to a fingerprint sample as DNA source. One of the main problems associated with fingerprints is that only 30 to 35% of fingerprints have been successfully amplified and typed. Kita et al. Performed experiments which showed that small amounts of fragmented DNA is present on the surface of the skin, and they theorized that these fragments of DNA may be constantly sloughed off the keratinized cornified layer of skin, and that sweat may also contain fragmented DNA.